Hello, and thank you all for coming tonight, and thank everyone who's watching via live stream. Roni Ramos is the Community Education Coordinator for Trailblazers. She's going to start you off tonight, and I want to thank her for bringing this program to us. Before you leave, please fill out one of the slips, the program evaluation slips that I left in your seat, and just drop it in that basket on your way out if you would, because your feedback helps us with our programming. So, thank you.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing tonight? Good deal. Actually, I'm going to put my water over there. Okay. Well, glad to have all of you guys on this beautiful day. Weather-wise, now it's dark, but I don't know if you guys were able to see the sunset. It was really pretty. I enjoyed that on my way here. So to get us started, this is Confident Commuting, so thank you guys very much for stopping in for this class. This class will be about an hour and a half or so, but at any point, if you would like to ask questions, just raise your hand and I can definitely address your questions if you have any. So we'll start off talking about who is Trailblazers. Has anyone here heard of Trailblazers before? Okay. So with Trailblazers, we're a nonprofit and we do a couple of different things. So we develop, design, build both soft surface, so mountain bike trails, but also paved surface, so think about the greenway and that sort of thing. And then we also do cycling education and advocacy, and so that's kind of where I come in as the community education coordinator, offering these either on the bike or off the bike classes. And so our mission is to lead the development and innovative regional recreation and transportation movement that places trails, cycling, and active transportation infrastructure at the core of an inclusive, vibrant, and healthy culture here within Northwest Arkansas. So we're going to do a little bit of an icebreaker. I want you guys to find a stranger in the room, someone you've never met, and I want you guys to get their name, where do they live, and if you could find out what areas of confident commuting they're most interested in, and you guys are going to introduce each other to the group. So I'll give you guys about 2, maybe 3 minutes to kind of just pair up. So find someone new in the crowd. If there is an odd number, I have a volunteer in the back who will partner with the odd person. So I'll go ahead and give you guys about 2, 3 minutes to just kind of get to know each other.
Great, so this is our thing. Right, and there's getting to be more of those with the bike trail and stuff that are located just like that, so. Great, well, I'm Teresa, the closest town I live to is Elkins, but I actually have a Fayetteville address, so I have about 11 miles to come into town, and I've been driving that, but I want to, when I am in Fayetteville, I like to spend some time biking, you know, as well as getting other stuff done. When I was in graduate school in Oregon, I commuted everywhere on a bike for 4 years and haven't really picked that up again. And don't even own a bike right now, so it's kind of like I'm going to slowly get back into it, maybe rent a bike and try some things out. But the roads here scare me. I mean, it scares me to even walk around here. So. Okay. Right, that are kind of off. separated the path and all that. That's right. Oh, it is. Oh, you had to put up with that. Okay.
Message saying press any key to abort an activity power off in 2 minutes.
Hope I remember.
Oh, okay. If this randomly turns off in 2 minutes, it has to do something with that message. I'm not sure what that's about, but we'll just kind of resume with the presentation. So I think we've had for now about 4 minutes, so we'll go ahead and just kind of strut around the room. So we'll start on here on the left side in the front. If you can go ahead and present your partner, and then same thing, and then we'll kind of just move across the room. Oh, and I had a microphone, but now I don't know where it is, but it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, may have walked out there.
Oh, there it is.
This is Angela, and Angela lives near Crossover Mission? Oh. You live, no, Mission and Old Wire. Yeah. Right, something like that. And she is interested in just becoming more confident in commuting, and she just wants to increase her time on the bike.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, hadn't ridden a bike since high school, but got back to it just, I don't know how recently, but anyway.
2 years.
2 years, okay.
Yeah.
Did I catch most of it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, this is Teresa. She lives in Elkins.
Yeah.
And, but when she comes to Fayetteville, wants to start riding her bike around and taking advantage of the trail. She doesn't have a bike right now, but she's ready, thinking about renting a bike.
Yeah.
And exploring a little bit.
Fun, awesome. Well, glad to have you ladies, and then if you want to speak on the microphone at all.
That's Gabriella.
Okay.
She's sort of a troublemaker. She lives in Bentonville and isn't familiar with the trails in Fayetteville and wants to learn about the trails in Fayetteville.
Okay, awesome.
Scott lives in Fayetteville, and he's actually a pretty confident commuter already, but he's interested in learning more about connectivity or the future of connectivity in Fayetteville.
Yep, new trails.
Awesome. Okay, and
This is Anaí. We were here together. She lives in Rogers. We've been knowing each other for about a year or so. We ride our bikes pretty often.
yeah, okay.
I'm not sure what you're.
Yeah, we didn't get to finish
Okay.
the. I guess I can speak for myself. I think like just north of Arkansas.
Okay.
Because I was thinking, like Rogers, because that's where I live.
Yeah,
But hey, I can come to Fayetteville too.
yeah. Learn a little bit more about outside of Rogers. Yeah.
And
makes
so
sense.
this is Allie. She also lives in Rogers, and she said,
Just cycling rules and see what, I guess, rules we can play against cars and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Okay. Awesome. And we'll take it to the two in the back.
She is B. She lives in Springdale and is interested in knowing more about safety on commuting.
This is Sandy, and they live in Bentonville. And I think safety was a big thing, but Sandy's just getting into biking, so really everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to get to know someone new and sharing your interest within confident commuting. So I think we can hopefully address some of that, and then if not, like I said, always raise your hand, and we'll see where we can kind of help you guys out. So today's topics, we're going to talk about the why of commuting by bike, gear options, so what gear should we look at, do we maybe want to wear, what it takes to kind of plan your first commute, rules of the road, I heard that, and rider safety as well. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the principles of traffic law, specifically as to what pertains here in the state of Arkansas. So, why do we want to commute by bike? I open this to all of you. What are some reasons? Why do you guys want to commute by bike? Okay, because cars suck. That's a good one. Okay. Anybody else? That's traffic. Okay, yeah.
Good exercise.
Yeah. Okay, good deal.
It helps the world.
It helps the world. Yes, I love that.
Cost effective.
Yeah.
Cost.
Most certainly. Okay. Well, I have some answers here, and I think you guys pretty much nailed them all. So we have physical health, kind of just promoting that, mental health, environmental impact, saving some money. Maybe if you're in a two-car household, if one spouse or one partner starts to commute by bike, maybe we can then sell the car. So we can save some money there, maybe less oil changes, and then time savings. I know I've timed my commutes when I'm going on my bike versus on my car, and a lot of times I can actually cut time when I'm on my bike, which is really, really good. Yes, so that's a big one for me. And then I don't know if you guys have ever thought about this one, but community. I don't know about you guys when you guys are in your car, but it's kind of hard to make friends. But a lot of times when I'm at a light or at an intersection, whoever's also riding or is on the skateboard wants to kind of maybe just strike a conversation or just say a hello and smile. And so I always feel like I'm kind of just getting to know more people within the Northwest Arkansas region when I'm on my bike. Somebody said cars suck. I'm just kidding. And so I think that kind of plays to the environmental impact that we can sometimes see with motorized vehicles. So this is just a screenshot to kind of just show you guys just about how many carbon emissions come out of cars. So about 404 grams per every mile, a little bit less if you're carpooling. A little bit better if you decide to take public transportation, and then you can see with biking or walking, really none at all. So saving the planet, that's also, very important, and why we kind of sometimes feel good about ourselves when we decide to take our bike to work or to the store versus in our car. So we'll talk a little bit about some gear options. So we'll talk about bike, helmet, lights, and then just any extras. So I'll kind of go through them each individually. So when it comes to bike, I know there's someone here in the crowd who said they don't have a bike just yet, so maybe either you do already have a bike or maybe you're considering purchasing your first commuter bike. So there's kind of different things to consider. Cost is a big one. I mean, with bikes, you can find them anywhere as like in a couple $100 range all the way up to the thousands. So there's definitely a lot of kind of variance there when it comes to cost. So that's one factor to consider. And then we have fit and frame style. I have some photos here of different bikes. So some are e-bikes, some are non-e-bikes, some have the cargo area, some do not. There's folding bikes. So just depending on where you're going to be riding, what season will you be riding in, and what do you want to carry. So if you have a bike that has this built-in cargo area, maybe you don't need a bag and you don't need a lot of other kind of like extra things. You can kind of just throw everything in there. If you live like in a rainy area, or maybe you decide to just ride in the rainy season, then you might maybe want to consider fenders. Does everyone here know what fenders are? This bike has both the front and rear. They're a little camouflaged, but that's really nice. So if I'm riding out, and even if it's not raining, but if the asphalt is a little wet, that's definitely going to just help kind of keep me dry and clean to have the fender. So that's a really nice add-on to have on a bike. This one is also an e-bike, which is really nice because I don't have to put in as much effort when I'm pedaling, and so that's also really nice. So if I'm riding in the summer, e-bike is definitely a really good option because you're not going to get all sweaty, and so that's really nice. No one wants to show up to work or to the store all sweaty. This one also has kind of like an integrated cargo area, so that also, if I can wear my backpack or if I just want to throw something in there, some groceries, having a bike that has like some of that built-in cargo area is pretty nice. But you don't always have to have bikes with built-in storage. There are other options. So this bike, aside from having the fender, also has this rack right here, with that rack, I can put some bags. So they make different kinds of bags, but basically I can kind of fold this up and tie it here to the side and put one over there. This one is also one that I grabbed at Walmart in the camping area, so it's waterproof. So that's really nice. So if I wanted to put my clothes or my laptop or groceries, that sort of thing, I could roll that up and that'll stay weatherproof. Okay. Average length of commute, just another variable to kind of consider. When you have a bike like the one on that top left corner, you have a couple of different hand options. So you can put your hands kind of up top. You can also put them in the bottom. It has the kind of like drop style handlebars, and so that's kind of nice. So if you have a very long commute, maybe having a bike that has multiple hand options just will kind of help with some of that pressure and hand fatigue that you might get that will as a result of just a long bike commute. Storage, so maybe you're riding to the office, maybe you have to take an elevator. That's where that folding bike is going to be really nice to have, because then you can kind of just compact it down and not really worry about that. But maybe your workplace does have just some bike storage. That's where a bike lock will come in handy. So regardless of what bike you have, just to think about the kind of locking options. These are very popular, the coil locks, and then they have a little code. So these are really nice. These work similar to those, but with these, they're just a little bit more lightweight. And I like these because you can just kind of, I think the code's not working here. These are just a little bit more compact. And so a lot of times when I go out, if I have a belt loop, I'll just clip it here. I can't even feel it. So this is one of my favorites. But if I want something kind of beefy, we also have these called the U-locks. And sometimes the U-locks will also come with one of these kind of coiled locks. And so these are really good because, you know, if someone's trying to take your bike, it's going to take them a while to break into this. So this is a good one to have as well. Any questions when it comes to bike selection? No? Yes? Tires, okay, yes, thank you. I kind of skipped over that. So tires, there's different types of tires in terms of size, the width, just like the pattern. So if you look at these two bikes at the very bottom, the front wheel on each of those is kind of a tiny wheel. It's a 20-inch tire. And so bikes like that usually will give you some cargo area. And so both of these, the blue one has a smaller kind of cargo area, but it's a lot easier to kind of maneuver. And then because you have the cargo area, all of the load is kind of in the front, which feels, I think, a little bit better versus having load in the back. Just easier to kind of maneuver and navigate. Usually some of these will also, these tires will also be rather thick. And once again, having the thick tires will help with just being comfortable on the bike, because the thicker your tires are, they kind of work like suspension. So it's nice to have thick tires. But if I want to maybe ride to work or to the store and I don't want cargo area built into my bike, I think I'm going to opt for that other bike on the left, and that bike on the top left corner is probably going to have skinnier tires. It's going to have probably like some grip and stuff, but I'm going to go faster on that because I'm just going to have all the weight here maybe on my backpack. So that's kind of what different tire tread and options look like on a bike. So yes?
You mentioned the fenders and the racks and things that can go on bikes. Can I add them to any bike that I choose?
Ah, yes, good question. So yes, let's go back to that. That's a great question. Yes, so this bike already came with that stuff. It already came with the fenders. It even came with lights. This basket was included. But if you have a bike and it doesn't have any of that stuff, no worries, you can add all of that stuff. So usually with whether it's a front or a rear rack, they look something like this. And usually the hardware, the bolts, are already on the bike, but if not, you can go to a hardware store or a bike shop and just get the bolts. And this just kind of bolts on here in the back. And so this is a rear rack. They make the front racks. Not all bikes will take front racks, but here, if some of you can see, this does have the 2 little bolts on the side. So this one could take, if I didn't like this and I wanted to change it out, I could get a front rack here and bolt it on the front. So you could do the rear rack or the front rack. Just you have to make sure you have the little bolts so that it can actually bolt onto the bike. And for fenders, you can add fenders similar to those, but they also make some like this, just like some quick clip-on style. And so these are nice because with these, I can come here and typically just kind of put it like this. This one's gonna protect more, but this is still gonna protect some stuff. So you can always kind of have some like these. And then they make these other clip-ons that would be kind of like an in-between of this full fender and this one where they clip just on the post. But you get a little bit more of an arch here. So there are some options that don't have to bolt on, because with these you do have to bolt them on just like you would a rear rack. So they can either be bolted on or they can be clipped on somewhere on the bike. So we'll talk about helmets. So, actually I wasn't supposed to show you that. Do we have to wear helmets when we rent our bikes? Okay, get some yeses here. Technically, Arkansas state law, I didn't write the book, does not require the use of a helmet for bicycle riders, but there are some exceptions, okay? So these are the exceptions. Helmets are required for riders of Class 3 e-bikes under the age of 21. And we'll talk about the different classes of e-bikes here in a little bit. But I would just say if you're gonna, honestly, I would say if you're gonna be on any bike, whether it's e-bike or not, wear a helmet, but you definitely could get fined for not having a helmet on this type of e-bike. In the city of Rogers, they do require bicycle helmets. So same thing, if you were to see a safety official, police officer, they could definitely cite you if you're in Rogers. So I'm thinking even if Fayetteville or Lowell doesn't require it, I might find myself in Rogers, so why not just be safe and put on my helmet? Bentonville does require, if you're under the age of 14, to have a helmet. My favorite, the use of a helmet can save lives. I have been hit by a car, and I went in the air, and then I like went on the ground. But if I didn't have my helmet, I probably could have had a really bad injury. So I'm very thankful of what a bicycle helmet can do. So definitely will advocate the use of a bike helmet. So with bike helmets, which I brought mine, they make them in all different colors, styles, and shapes. But typically, going into a shop and just trying out, making sure that it fits you is kind of be the best way to go. And I know sometimes you're like, oh, online shopping, I want to get a deal. Yeah, and you could return it, but I would say a helmet's one of those things that it might be best to just go into a shop, into a department store, bicycle shop, and actually kind of pick one out for you, because they do kind of make them in different sizes. But with these, they typically have the style in the back. And so you want to kind of loosen that. I want to put on my helmet, make sure it's loose. And then I want to have my clips here, and then these are adjustable. So I want to come here and be able to clip that just like right under my chin. Have enough space right here, and then kind of just tighten everything here in the back, just to make sure that if this moves around, my head's going to be protected.
Can you talk about the difference with a bike helmet versus like other helmets? Like
Yes, okay.
skateboarder helmets?
Yes, that's a good question. What kind of makes these different is nowadays a lot of these helmets have this little yellow thing in here. Your helmet doesn't have to have this little yellow thing in here, but it really helps because it kind of gives you an additional shell of protection. In addition to that, the way that bicycle helmets are designed with this thickness of padding and the vents, they're designed so that they can absorb a certain amount of impact, like from a car hitting you. And so if you were to wear just a helmet that you would wear like if you were skateboarding or if you were rollerblading, it's just not going to have that same type of protection. So there is definitely a difference in terms of, I mean, you could even wear like a motorcycle helmet, but that's a little overkill. So just getting something that's specifically designed for bikes would be the way to go.
I have a question, sorry.
Yes.
Because you said we can, the police, we can get pulled over, y'all. Do you know the fine? Do you know like how much they're fining?
I do not. That's a good question. I would probably have to call certain precincts and just ask because I was looking for that information online and I couldn't find it. So no idea really. I mean, I would maybe $100. I don't know, 200. I really have no idea. So don't take my word for it. But that is a good question to know. So I have some family in law enforcement, so I will definitely ask them and see.
Noting though that a lot of the police around here don't know bike law.
Okay, yeah, that is also true. Yeah.
I would say more important than the fear of a fine, I would be fearful of what if there's a pothole you didn't notice? What if there's a squirrel that got
Yeah.
greedy and wanted to cross your path? Even if you're moving at 2 miles an hour, a helmet can really protect you. So why not use this safety device?
Thank you. So bike lights, do we need them?
Yes, but.
I love you. Yeah, so in Arkansas, yes, and I want to say just about all 50 states actually do require you to have bike lights. So the kind of parameters on that are with the front light, so that on my image that I have here is going to be that top one, that would be a front headlight right there. That light should be visible from 500 feet away. Same thing with the light that you have on the back, that should be visible from 500 feet away. So how do you know? Most of these bikes, if you've ever been out trying to purchase, they will usually write lumens on there. But how will you know how many lumens will guarantee that you can be seen from 500 feet away? So there's a general consensus that typically you don't want bicycle lights that are less than 200 lumens. We can get all scientific and say because different manufacturers can guarantee 500 feet at 300, 400 different lumens, but the general consensus is that you typically don't want to go under 200 lumens because you want them to be bright enough so that cars, pedestrians, and other bicyclists can see you when you're riding. Bike reflectors, sometimes your bikes do come on with bike reflectors, but bike reflectors are passive light sources that offer additional nighttime visibility. So if you only have reflectors, that is not good enough. Sometimes you can have a red reflector that is visible from 500 feet away, and in Arkansas, you can use that as a rear light. But let me tell you something, they're really hard to find. So, and by the time you look for that, might as well just get a light, a proper red rear light. The white and red reflectors that usually come on your bike, those are typically insufficient. They don't offer very good reflective ability. So there are other things out there. I say, you can use this as additional nighttime visibility. So one good option, which I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you've ever been in your car, like on the interstate and the construction workers are doing nighttime traffic, they usually wear these. I can see them, so if I'm on my bike and I'm wearing this, you should be able to see me as well. So this is kind of one option to kind of increase your visibility at night. But maybe I'm like, I don't want to wear a vest. This is also something that I can wear just in the daytime. These reflective accessories not only do they help at night, but they also help in the daytime. So I have here a bright pink jacket. This is probably something maybe I want to grab to ride while it's daytime and nighttime. Also have like something like this if I just want to put a band just to kind of help my visibility. Once again, this is something that I can sport both during the daytime and the nighttime to just increase visibility. And these reflective accessories, they're not exclusive to bike shop apparel. These are things that you can find at the hardware store, Lowe's, Walmart, just about anywhere else. They also make like these little stickers, and these you can kind of stick on your frame, on your wheel. Once again, they will just kind of like add some visibility. So yeah, that's bike lights. So now we'll go ahead and talk about planning our first commute and what that looks like. So the very first thing is making sure your bike is ready. And so has anyone heard of ABC Quick Safety Check? Okay, some people have, some people have not. Basically, it's a way to kind of just scan over your bike and make sure that your bike is good to go. It would be very unfortunate to start riding my bike and have an unpleasant surprise. So ABC meaning air, wanting to make sure I have enough air in my tires. B for brakes. I always want to make sure that I can actually stop my brakes before I actually get on the bike and start pedaling. And then C is going to be for chain, cogs, cassette. So making sure that I can pedal the bike, and then if I shift the bike, it's going to be able to shift where it needs to be. This bike, also with the quick portion, I also want to make sure that the wheels are on there. Some bikes will have what's known as the quick release, which I wish I would have brought one of those quick release skewers, but same thing, making sure that the wheels are tightly clamped on the bike as well. So making sure my bike is ready and ready to ride. The second thing would be to plan my route and test it. Sunday's a really good day to plan and test a route, just because there's not as much cars out. But why is this important to plan your route and to test it out? So you're not late to work. Yeah, you don't know if it's going to be your first time going to work or first time doing your first grocery run on the bike. You don't want to be there late, and so you want to be able to kind of plan ahead. And so there are different tools that you can kind of use on your phone or on your computer. You can go old school and just grab a map and do it that way too. So Google Maps is one option that kind of comes to mind. And let me see if I can click into this actually. Might not be able to. Okay, sorry. My links don't work, but basically my Google Maps would take me to a route that I had planned here from the library to the Ozark Natural Food Store. When I'm on Google, it allows me to filter through and hit, have you ever gone on there and you can hit the car, the bike, or the person walking? When you hit the person riding the bike, what that does is it'll kind of take you off the highway or the busy roads and try to either get you on bike paths or bike lanes, or maybe just some neighborhoods. Because if you're able to, if there isn't a protected bike lane or bike path, to go in a neighborhood or residential area that has a speed limit of 25 miles an hour is going to be preferred. And so that's where Google Maps really comes in handy. With Fayetteville, if you visit the city of Fayetteville's website that they have different links to different maps for the Greenway, but also some of the mountain bike trails and so on. So you can always check out, so if you're maybe traveling and you're like, okay, maybe I want to ride my bike here, or I'm in Fayetteville, but I don't know about Rogers, you can go to the city of Rogers, city of Bentonville, and go to the city's website and kind of filter through and see what map options they have as well. The third thing would be to check weather and dress appropriately. So I'll kind of cater this for our winter season since it's getting a little cold out there. How can one gauge whether you've underdressed or overdressed? To gauge if you have overdressed or have put on too many layers, if you walk outside and you feel warm, you've overdressed, you've overlayered. You don't want to feel warm. You actually want to feel a little cold. You don't want to be like, nothing like that, but you want to feel just a little chill, right? Because what'll happen is after you start pedaling, you will get hot. And if you did bring your backpack, but you only put your lunch and your work stuff and whatever, and there's no room for a big puffy jacket, then what happens to your big puffy jacket that you're now sweating in? So that, I would say that's definitely like a good rule of thumb is like with the winter season, if you step out and you're warm, you have overdressed. With the summertime, what's the best way to say with the summertime? Really anything that's like sweat wicking or athletic wear, it would be the way to go. So you don't have to go to a bike shop and get specific bike shop apparel. You can go to any department store and just go into the athletic section. Jogging pants, shorts, just sweat wicking athletic wear that you would maybe wear to the gym is good for the summertime. We can also talk about some additional accessories. So one piece that I like for the winter time are these little sleeves. They're just called arm sleeves. So same thing, you can get them at like Dick's Sporting Goods, at any athletic store. I really like wearing these because there are times when I get to work and I want to wear a short sleeve shirt. But I will put these on and then I'll put like another layer and maybe my jacket. And so I like these because to me, they provide a lot of insulation, but it's something that I can kind of quickly take off. And I like it too because we know how sporadic Arkansas weather can be. And so if I have these and it gets hot, I can quickly I don't have to go look for a bathroom or anything, or do a weird wardrobe change. I can just take off my sleeves. They make these for legs too. You've probably seen runners wear those. In the wintertime, I will also wear those, and I'll wear them under these pants, and same thing, I like them because I can just take them off really quickly if it gets hot. I've done that in mid-ride because I wasn't outside long enough to kind of gauge the weather, so that's really nice. In the summer or springtime, they do make fingerless gloves. And these are nice because they're not necessary. These are extras, right? But they kind of just give you a little bit of comfort, especially these because they have this kind of like extra padding. So I like to wear fingerless gloves in the summer, spring, fall, really any time. It makes my riding experience a little bit more comfortable.
Hey, Ronnie?
Mm-hmm.
Can I wear regular clothes on a bike? Like, can I wear my jeans?
Yeah, you can certainly wear your jeans. You can wear regular clothes for sure.
Do you have any tips for wearing flare pants?
Yes, I do. So I put this on as this armband, but not only is this an armband, it's also a leg band. So if you are saying, hey, I want to go to the office, I want to look cute, I'm going to wear my flared jeans, A-okay. I want to see how I can do this number. And this has increased my visibility, but also when I pedal, my pants won't get caught. So that's really nice about having these. So you can definitely, wear regular clothes. I wear regular clothes when I bike to work all the time. I would just say that, making sure like your pants are protected and making sure you just don't over layer would be the key thing. But you can definitely ride in pants. I'll tell you something though, if I'm wearing jeans or if I'm wearing like these flexy little pants, then probably to pedal would feel a little bit more comfortable. So there is that bit, but it's not impossible. I mean, I bike in pants all the time, and like, what is it called? And like in denim. You can also bike in skirts and dresses too. And heels, yes, you can bike in heels. So definitely all very possible to do. So, yeah. Oh, yes, good one. So what if it rains? I actually forgot my raincoat. So if it rains, this is kind of a good, I think this is a raincoat here. Yes, okay, we're gonna get a demo here.
Got these in the clearance section. They'll have a good deal. They have reflective striping because on those rainy days, it's gonna be overcast. It's gonna be darker. So it's gonna be harder for people to see me. And I was so thrilled when I realized that these pants, let's cross our fingers that the battery still works.
Oh,
They actually
nice.
have
Those are
light
fancy.
action on the ankles.
I think we all want to know where you got them.
Check clearance section. But I've been told by other people that they've found like reflective joggings in the running section of like Dick's Sporting
Yes.
Goods or something like that. And that's been what they've utilized for increased visibility. It doesn't have to be bike specific gear per se, but I liked these because I could just put them over my regular clothes and like Ronnie said, just quickly slip it off when I get to work. Like I would totally wear this to commute to work. It's about having the other good stuff.
And I think another good resource where I have found bags, jackets, jogging pants, and that sort of thing is a military surplus store. That's just a good, I mean, because everything that they make for the military is tactile, right? And it's a surplus store because nobody wants it, so it's usually got a good bargain. So I would say if you can find yourself at a military surplus store, that's also a good place to check out. Next thing we'll talk about is packing smart. So when we think about this, we're thinking about our destination and what all are we going to carry. We kind of touched on this a little bit when we were looking at the different bike options that are available. So we know that this bike comes with lights, but I think it's always important to say that you should maybe always bring bike lights because you can just clip them on here and they'll just stay there. Because what if you do go to work and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to get off at 3, but let's just say someone's like, hey, you want to go to early dinner? Or you're like, I got to run this errand, or you have to stay a little bit late at work. So just having that kind of like peace of mind that you brought your lights, I think is always definitely a good thing. I always, whatever bike I have, if it doesn't have integrated lights, I'll always bring extra lights because you never know, right? So this kind of also complements this of packing smart, which is thinking about having a backup plan. So let me ask you this, you're out on your ride and you get a flat. What are you going to do? What's your backup plan? What did you say, AAA? Yeah. So that's a good question, right? It's like, what will I do? Well, if you know how to fix a flat, then you can have one of these little bags. These are called saddle bags. They have these little Velcro straps right here. And they typically just go under here, and I can carry some tools. And so what might you usually find in one of these is maybe this is a hand pump. So if I get a flat, I can put some air into my tire. If I found that I got a little sharp rock or something, then maybe I want to patch my inner tube. So that's what that's for. And then I need this little tool known as a tire lever is going to help remove that tire. So, but what if I'm like, I really just don't want to deal with this right now? What do I do? Call a friend, yeah. That's what. So it's just something to kind of like think about. I've thought about, okay, if I'm going to go to Fayetteville, who am I calling? If I'm going to Rogers, who am I calling? So it's just things to just kind of think about if you go to certain areas and if you don't want to kind of like deal with that. I have an e-bike where the motor is wired weird and all this, and it's just a headache, and it's a very heavy bike. And I already know that anytime I ride that bike, I am calling somebody because I know how to fix a flat, but I just don't want to deal with it. But when I'm on a different bike, I probably will bring one of these things because I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll fix my flat. That's fine. So just kind of something to consider. And I'll do a little bit of advertising and say we do also teach a class known as Intro to Bike Maintenance, and we teach you how to fix a flat. So I'll talk about that towards the end of the class, details on that, but good to know how to fix a flat. Do I have any questions with planning your first commute? No? And at the end of this presentation, I will send you an email with some of these like links that I wasn't able to open and so on. So you will have some resources after this as well. So we'll talk about rules of the road. So in Arkansas, bicycles are not considered vehicles. What does that mean, really? It's kind of weird, huh? They're not vehicles. It says they're not vehicles. However, cyclists are still granted all the same rights and duties as individuals operating motor vehicles. So let me elaborate. Bicyclists must still yield to pedestrians. That might seem like common sense, but they put it in the handbook for a reason. So bicyclists must yield to pedestrians. Just like cars are required to use turn signals. As a bicyclist, I'm required to use hand signals. And I'll go over that here in a little bit in more detail. I'm also, as a bicyclist, I'm required to ride in the right half of the roadway. What does that mean?
You know, like you're used to walking opposite of traffic, so this is with the traffic.
Yeah. So if I am going to be riding on a road where motor vehicles are also on, I have to ride with traffic, right? Not against it. And we'll talk a little bit about what that right half means. I have a little bit of examples on that. As a bicyclist, I must also obey all traffic signals, but there are exceptions to this rule. So here's where I'll kind of talk about just some gray area. So there's going to be certain laws that will only apply to bicyclists and not motor vehicles. And at the same time, there's going to be rules of the road laws for only motorists that don't apply to bicyclists. So for instance, the use of brakes. If you have a motor vehicle in the state of Arkansas, you have to have operating brakes, yeah? In Arkansas, you actually do not. It's kind of crazy, but you don't. Legally, you don't, with the exception of the city of Fayetteville and Springdale. So once again, if we were to find ourselves with the police officer, and if I'm in Fayetteville, I could get cited for not having brakes on my bike. They do make bikes that don't have brakes. So I'm not legally required to have brakes. The use of bells. So you're not required, in a motor vehicle, you're required to have what? A functioning horn, right? To operate your motor vehicle. With bikes, in the state of Arkansas, I'm not legally required to, with the exception of the city of Little Rock and Fayetteville. Little Rock and Fayetteville require that a bicycle be equipped with a bell or other device for warning pedestrians. But I will say with the bell, this is another thing similar to that rule with the helmets. If I am on, whether it's a protected bike lane or whether I'm actually on the roadway sharing the road with other motorists, do I want to scream at them or do I just want to hit a button or a bell, right? I can scream at them, but a lot of times this is just going to be faster and more effective. So I would say a bell is also one of those, it's an extra, it's an additional, you don't need it, but definitely something that will complement your riding experience. Idaho stop. So this is a law that was signed into Arkansas in 2019. And so this law allows two protections that are specific to bicyclists but not motor vehicles. So they state that as a bicyclist, we are able to treat stop signs as yield signs. So that's the first part. And the second part is that a bicyclist can treat a red light as a stop sign. Does everyone kind of understand that? So when there's a stop sign, of course I want to look both ways, but as a bicyclist, I am not legally required in the state of Arkansas to come to a complete stop. So I can ride, nope.
Clarify that that's if there's no one around.
Yes, and we'll definitely talk about that as well, as other rules still do apply to us. Treating red lights as stop signs. So if there's a red light, I can treat it as a stop sign. So all the motor vehicles are there and they're waiting in a queue line, but I can go if I want. And at that point, it kind of is like a judgment thing, and I can kind of give you some examples on that. A couple more rules. So when it comes to motorists that are passing, they are required in the state of Arkansas to give you a minimum of 3 feet. That is the law. So if you ever find yourself in a weird kind of situation, you are entitled to that 3 feet.
Hey, Ronnie, I have a question. Does Arkansas allow, do you know if Arkansas allows motorists to cross the double yellow line in order to pass a cyclist?
The double yellow line.
The center line.
You're going in the same direction and you're
Yes.
saying okay.
Yes, they do, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So signaling. So we talked about we need turn signals. So when I want to turn left, I'm going to extend my arm to the left. If I want to turn right, I have 2 options. I can either, which I don't like that second one, because I prefer to do this because that's intuitive. You know, it feels like, okay, I'm turning right, going left. If I'm slowing down, then I can put my palm facing backward. And so that should notify a motorist or someone else, a pedestrian or someone else on a bike that I am slowing down. With intersections, so yes, the Idaho stop is a thing, but if I come to a 4-way stop, there's many times when I'm riding my bike and I'm in neighborhood areas every morning because everyone's taking their kids to school. And if I'm coming to a 4-way stop and if I have to simply just think about if I have enough time, I don't have enough time. So I'm going to stop at that 4-way stop and we'll see who gets there first. Because if I have a doubt in my mind and if a car gets there before I do and they are there for 3 seconds and they think I'm going to slam on my brakes, but I'm not because in my head I already told myself I'm going to run that because of, Idaho stop, then we're both endangering our lives. But I specifically would be at fault, right? So that's how you would kind of go about that when it comes to intersections. Like if it's not very clear, then you cannot take it as a yield. You must also stop with the other cars that are coming at that intersection. So this is kind of to address your question there. So where do I ride my bike? So everything that's on here is word for word from the Arkansas Driver's License Manual, okay? So it says, cyclists may use any public road, street, or highway in Arkansas with the exception of freeways and other controlled access highways. So these are the lane positions for bicycles that are allowed in the state of Arkansas as outlined in the Driver's License Manual. When a bicycle rider and a vehicle share the same lane, they are required to ride side by side in the same lane. So I'm here, remember how we read and it said, I will stay to the right, so I'm to the right, and they're here and we're sharing the lane. Even then,
3 feet away.
3 feet, yeah, ideally, but you can't always do that. So here's where all these caveats come in. Even then, there are certain times, and I'm going to say a lot of times, the majority of the times, when a bicycle can take the full lane. So here's what that looks like. A bicyclist should be allowed full use of the lane when the rider, the bike rider, is overtaking and passing another vehicle going in the same direction. So that answers your question of whether it's not opposite traffic, but if we have 2 lanes in a roadway, and if I, as a rider, want to pass them, or if I want to just own the lane, I can stay in the middle of the lane. When it says that I can have full use of the lane, that means my position is no longer to the right, but I am now in the middle of the lane. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think my question was about a car crossing the double yellow, not a bike.
To pass,
The car passed the bicycle.
They do it all the time, but I really don't know if
I need to look it up.
yeah.
There are certain states that allow that, but I don't know if Arkansas.
Okay. Good. Okay. Noted. So a bicyclist should be allowed full use of the lane when if the lane is marked and signed for bicycle use only, drivers must never use the lane as a turning lane, passing lane, or parking lane. Can anyone give me an example of a lane that is marked and signed for bicycle use only?
I think Lafayette has one where it's like painted green.
Yeah. So a lot of times you'll see certain like indicators, whether they're like at eye level or on the ground, and it will say bike use only. So these are designated, dedicated only for bike lanes or other micromobility, such as like skateboards or maybe one wheels or things like that. So with these areas, it's very clear that motorists are not allowed. And so when you are in those kind of roadways, yeah, go ahead and that was designed for you, so take that. But if there isn't that, then that's when you can take full use of the lane. And I'll continue to expand on that. The bicyclist, so another instance in which you can take full use of the lane is when a bicyclist is getting in place for a left turn at an intersection or turning left into a private road or driveway. So even though if I'm on a very wide street, but I know I'm going to take a left, I own that lane. And I'm in the middle of the lane. A bicyclist should be allowed full use of the lane when there are unsafe conditions in the roadway, such as parked cars, moving vehicles or machinery, fixed obstacles, pedestrians, animals, potholes, and debris. Not every morning, I should say almost every morning I go get coffee. I live in Bentonville and I go to Airship, so I go in the downtown area, but it's like completely opposite of my office. But I do that anyways. And when I'm in these neighborhood roads, there's always construction. There's one obstacle after the other. There's kids, there's all kinds of things. So as soon as I'm in certain neighborhood streets, I'm already in the middle and I'm riding the middle the entire way. The speed limit's 25. And I know from commuting those roads every day that there's potholes, there's parked cars. And so I just prepare myself and I say, I'm riding the middle the entire way. This is a 25-mile-an-hour street. If a car wants to pass me, they can, but you know, we're in a neighborhood street. So that's an example of taking full use of the lane. Another example would be if a lane is too narrow, for both a car and bicycle to safely share the lane. In this case, it is safest to let the bicycle take the full lane. So once again, these are going to be sometimes neighborhood streets, but sometimes they're even going to be like highway streets, you know.
So I have a question about this because it's very confusing to me. A lane width is 10 feet, 11 feet wide. And then there's supposed to be 3 feet between the cyclist and the car. So now there's 7 feet. Most cars are wider than that.
Yeah.
And then there's no room for a bike.
Exactly.
So we can take the lane whenever.
I don't want to explicitly say that, but kind of yes. Kind of yes. As a rider, there are times when motorists might say certain things or that, but when you look into these laws for the state of Arkansas, that basically does translate that most of the time, right? As a bicyclist, I can take the entire lane. I can ride in the middle just about the entire time. Whether it may seem like I can't, it's going to increase your visibility as well, which is probably one of the most important things about being in the middle. It's just because you're going to be visible from all angles. So I don't know if maybe the law is going to be written explicitly, but to me, that's the way that I'm translating that. If that makes sense. So we'll talk a little bit about rules of the road and staying safe. So we just talked about some of the law here in Arkansas. So one way to stay safe is to follow the law, ride with traffic, and use the rightmost lane that serves your destination. Being predictable. So I kind of shared with you guys that when I'm in certain neighborhood areas in Bentonville, could you imagine if there is a pothole and then I like get out and I'm like, okay, oh, there's a parked car, whoop. And then what am I doing then? I'm basically kind of just weaving all over the place. And if there's a car behind me, that's so unpredictable for them. They don't even know what I'm doing. So that's why when I'm in those certain road situations, which are very common here in Arkansas, I'm just going to ride straight the entire way. Because the car behind me and the car in front of me are seeing my pattern. And they're saying, oh, okay, she's just going to ride in the center the entire way. But then they know how they will act based on that, right?
That's the theory.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say that this line is also, that bullet point is also highlighting those moments where there's multiple lanes of traffic. Sometimes it's tempting as a cyclist to say, I'm running late, I want to scurry ahead of these cars, and weaving in and out of cars in order to get to the front. That can be a very dangerous situation because you never know when someone else is thinking the same exact thing. I'm going to cut into this lane and I'm going to try to beat traffic. So the safest thing is to stay within traffic if there is no bicycle lane for you to own.
That's true. That's a really good point. I myself have seen that as well, especially in certain downtown areas where people are on bikes and like, oh, I'm going to cut around, and then they'll cut around cars. But then that also kind of makes it for an unpredictable situation. And so as a bicyclist, we've stated that certain rules apply to us and then others don't. But at the end of the day, it's like we do have, as a bicyclist, you must use your best judgment when making these calls, and being predictable is definitely very important.
So at some intersections, you may see like a green box at the front of the intersection.
Okay.
So in that case, how do you use that?
So when you're talking about a green box at the
So
intersection,
like on 8th Street, type that in. There's one on 40th, on Emma Street now in Springdale.
okay, I'm familiar with 8th Street because I ride that every day.
8th Street, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I can speak to that
Okay.
a little bit. So when we approach a red light as a vehicle, we're carrying tons of weight, and there is an ability for the camera even also to sensor, to trigger a sensor that shows there's someone here at the light. We're going to trigger it so that in X amount of time, it's going to turn green. For bikes, that's a lot harder to achieve. So there are intentional green painted boxes at that intersection point, at the light. It has a bike symbol in it. That is meant to be a safe place for you to go, and that's like your permission to cut the line, essentially. But I would say that doesn't negate this bullet point. You don't want to swerve in and around cars. You probably want to stick, again, to still the furthermost right lane in order to get to that space. And oftentimes they will, it's usually with a bike lane or bike travel route in mind anyway.
And when you're in that
Okay.
intersection, should you go first, even if you have to turn left?
When you're at that intersection in
As
the
a
box,
bike, yeah.
sorry, we're
Do you-
making all of you
Sorry.
imagine and visualize very specific.
I'm making notes, and then I'm gonna okay, I need to add those
Yeah.
photos on the next one.
I know the answer to this question. Basically,
You're the witness.
if you are in that green box, you act as a vehicle now. So on 40th Street, Emma Street, there's new infrastructure. There's a lot of confusion about how to use this green box, so I wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
And the bike lane goes from 2 to 1 there. And so there is a diagonal cross section now.
Okay.
So it goes like this to this. And when you're in the bike box and you're looking at the light and it's green, then you can make a diagonal left turn onto the shared lane.
Interesting. Okay.
Drive by Emma, looks at this.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk after class.
If your goal is to make a left turn at a red light, you still don't have the right of way because we still have the right of way rule. You're acting as a vehicle. If there's oncoming traffic that's moving straight, then you still have to wait your
still
turn.
have to stop. Exactly.
Exactly.
But in this case, you're going straight, but you're going diagonal. So you're actually taking a left
Yeah.
in this case. So you
Yeah.
would operate as a vehicle trying to make a left.
So in other words, this bike box that helps you cut the line doesn't mean that you're no longer responsible for right of way rules.
No.
It means you still have to follow right of way.
Yes.
It doesn't give you
Gotcha.
a superhero cape, doesn't make you invincible.
You get to skip the line to the box, but
But then you, okay, I gotcha. Okay, thank you. So how else can we stay safe? Well, by staying visible. So what that looks like is we talked about bright clothing. So that is definitely one option. The use of lights. The use of lights is required by law at night. It's not required during the daytime, but it doesn't mean that you can't use lights. Some lights will have the little flashy thing. So at night, I might have it on this setting, but during the daytime, I might have that setting, especially if it's like a foggy day or if it's been raining, even though it's daytime. Like, you know how, same thing, motorists will also, like if it's very foggy or raining, they might have their low lights on, then I might want to also trigger mine. Another reason why it's just good to always have your bike lights on you, because you never know with the weather. This is a very important one, is making eye contact. There's a lot of times where I will be in certain intersections and the little walking man turns on and I'm like, okay, cool. And I go on my bike and then in the lane that I'm about to, in the crosswalk, there's a queue of cars that are trying to turn right. I'm like, oh, where do I go? And so then it can be awkward because you might have the tail end of one car where the start of the crosswalk is, and then you might have another one, right? And so anytime I'm going to cross, I make sure whoever I'm crossing in front of, I say, letting them know, hey, I see you and I'm about to go in front of your car, do not go, you know? So that's always very important. When you can, make eye contact. That's why when I wear glasses, I like to wear glasses that aren't very dark, but are kind of dim like this, because it's enough to protect me from the sun, but it's also enough for someone in their car to kind of make eye contact with me. And so that lets them know, hey, I see you and you see me. So that's definitely a very important one. Sidewalks, there are certain ordinance in certain cities that will not allow you to ride on the sidewalk. So Bentonville, Fayetteville, Little Rock, Hot Springs, Conway. Most cities will not, especially in their financial business district area. But once again, it's like if the sidewalks only allow enough people to walk and you're with your bike, you know, probably not the best thing. I'm sure you've all seen people riding on the sidewalks, but do avoid sidewalks.
Can I ask a question about that? So Fayetteville, I mean, we've got our bike trails and the, you know, kind of dedicated bike lanes, but they're also kind of putting in these like intermediate, sort of like extra wide sidewalks, which don't seem like they're technically bike trail, but they're kind of getting into that territory. Is there any like sort of gray area with that on? Because I mean, it's like bikes are obviously allowed on the bike trail, but
Yeah.
the like extra wide sidewalks, people are starting to use them as like a double way.
So to my knowledge, those are considered a version of the shared use paths, but they usually have to have the yellow dashed line to indicate that bikes can. I do have a transportation engineer in the crowd that might want to.
do you know how wide they are? Are they
I have a perfect example of one on Mission where they just finished the new bike trail and it has a double line and then it all of a sudden becomes a sidewalk.
I think that's still a shared use path.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would definitely.
Because there's no
recommend
other
that.
place to ride if you.
No, and they definitely have like the remnants of the old bike lane there still, but I think you will start to see more people use that wide sidewalk shared use path. I think there is definitely a gray area.
The yellow dash, though, is typically what will indicate, correct?
It can be,
Mm-hmm.
it can be, but if it's wider than I mean.
Than a normal sidewalk that you're used to,
normal
it's safe to.
sidewalk is usually 6 feet wide.
Okay.
And once it reaches like 8 to 10 feet, it can either be like you're just in an urban area. In this case, the context makes it feel like a
Yeah.
shared use path.
Okay. Awesome.
Does anyone have a hard time stomaching this? Avoid sidewalks. Does that sound scary or not what you want to hear? No?
15th Street, I'm really scared to ride on, not the sidewalk. There's a,
bike lane that is just I don't know, a gutter that
Yeah.
cars go flying by.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I would add to this that when a sidewalk feels like truly the safest possible place to ride, you can ride there. But you also need to accept that you may need to be a more defensive rider in this situation because no one is looking for a cyclist there. In some areas, they're not even looking for a pedestrian or someone on foot to be there. Maybe there's garbage cans in the way. Maybe this is a financial or business district, like Ronnie mentioned, where there are many driveways. So someone's just looking in one direction and they're not looking in the direction you're coming from because they're not expecting you to be there. So if you do choose to ride on the sidewalk, acknowledge that there are other dangers that you need to be very aware of.
Yeah. Thank you. Staying safe, we can also think ahead. So kind of to Gabriella's point, so anticipating drivers, pedestrians, and what other cyclists will do. Consider that whether you have to, jump on the sidewalk as kind of like your last resort, or whether you are sharing the roadway or owning the roadway on your own. Also very important to watch for turning vehicles and avoiding the door zone, kind of another reason to add to why you don't always just want to be on the right-hand side, especially if there's cars parked. Maybe their lights aren't on, but maybe they're just chilling in their car. A lot of people do that. So they might just be, and maybe they're listening to music or they're on a call and they open their door. Very popular way, especially in urban areas, for people to have accidents is from just someone in their car opening their door. And then always looking out for debris, potholes, road hazards, that sort of thing. We all know Arkansas roads, how lovely they are. Railroad tracks, sometimes you might encounter them. I was actually in downtown Little Rock, and I feel embarrassed to say this, but I just wasn't thinking about it. And I was like, I think my tire but you ideally want to go at right angles, because if not, your tire can definitely get caught and have a little bit of a fumble there. And then headphones. I have a pair of wireless headphones, and I will put just one. And I do that for different reasons, because mine give me notifications, and so sometimes I need notifications because I'm like, maybe have a meeting or a work thing, and so it's nice to just have one there. Or if someone calls me, if it's important, I can say, oh, okay, I'm going to stop over here, take a quick call. I don't know, that's just me. But also I like to listen to a little bit of music, and so when I just have the one, I can still hear. So I'd say if you are going to wear headphones, just wear the one. Or they make these really cool headphones that they kind of hang out here in your neck, and then they don't actually go inside of your ear. They just, I forget what they're called, something.
Bond conduction.
What is it called?
Bond conduction.
Yeah, and so those are really neat because they don't actually go in your ear. They're kind of like, it's like better than having a speaker on your bike. So that's also an option as well. For the city of Fayetteville, there is a really cool app called See-Click-Fix. And this is really neat because if most cities have the 311 line where you can report not only accidents, but also like if there's a pothole or if a light is down. For Fayetteville residents, you can download this app for free, take pictures and say, tree fallen on Greenway, that sort of thing. And it's really cool because then once you post it, you can go back and it'll tell you like, been checked, looking into, it'll give you kind of like status updates. So that's really neat. I feel like every city should have that, so go Fayetteville. So if you find yourself riding in Fayetteville, I would download that app. I mentioned to you guys earlier that when it came to the use of bike helmets, if you were in a class 3 bike, you have to wear a helmet. So what is class 3? I'll start you off with what's class 1 and work our way up. So class 1 means that it doesn't have a throttle. So like motorcycles, if I just hit this button, I don't have to pedal. It's just going to go. The motor's just going to do all the work. So class 1 doesn't have a throttle, but it's capped at 20 miles per hour. So this motor here will only assist me up to 20 miles an hour, which is safe because that's manageable. It's still fast, but it's manageable. And it doesn't mean you're going to go 20. It just means it's going to cap you there, right? Class 2 will also cap you at 20 miles an hour, but it is going to have that sometimes kind of handy of a button to hit the throttle and not have to be pedaling. Class 3, okay, I'm going to tell you something about Class 3. They aren't supposed to have a throttle, but sometimes they have a throttle. That's a no-no to the bike manufacturer, but I'm just letting you know it's out there. And they will cap at 28 miles an hour, so that's really fast. So like I said earlier, it is a law to have one if you're on a Class 3, but if you're going to be on any bike, e-bike or not, just wear a helmet. So that kind of ends it. I want to kind of ask you guys, are there any other barriers to commuting that might challenge you that we didn't kind of highlight or go over in the class?
Can we talk about like biking and using transit?
Biking and using transit. Well, I know we have the Ozark Regional Transit. and they have the bike racks in the front. And originally I was going to post routes, but it was like way too much screenshots. So then I was like, okay, never mind. But that I know that, and then this Fayetteville, the U of A also has their own transit system as well. But with the Ozark, you know, if you go on the app or on the website, you can look at certain popular hubs. So if you wanted to bike to a certain area, so like let's say if you were going to go to different cities, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm starting to commute, but I don't really want to bike an hour from Springdale to Bentonville, so maybe I'll look up the map, the bus, see where they're going to stop in Rogers. I'll catch it there, put my bike, you know, get on the bus, my bike is there, and then maybe I want to ride my bike around Bentonville. Well, I already have my bike. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Just how the two, okay. I've actually have not rode the public transit here. It's on my list, but I just know about it.
I'm curious, who in this room would have the longest commute from home to work?
17 miles.
17 miles? Anybody can beat that?
About 10.
About 10? 10's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Of all the people I've known in my life, I would say, am I included in this one? No. I have heard many stories of multimodal transportation. So sometimes people get a bike rack, put it on the back of their car, drive through the area that they're most fearful of, or maybe just don't feel like hitting that hill, park somewhere closer to work, and then ride the rest of the way there. This also helps kind of ease that issue of, I'm worried I'm going to be gross and sweaty by the time I get there, but 3 miles sounds good. I can chill out for 3 miles. Or maybe your last 3 miles to work are the most like stop and go traffic, the most frustrating part. So maybe you can clear the easy part and ride the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm from Hot Springs, and so that's what I would do in Hot Springs. Hot Springs is not bikeable at all, but I worked in the downtown area, and I was like, oh, it's pretty safe to bike, and so I would like park just a few neighborhoods away from the downtown, and then get on my bike. Because in like summertime and spring, like a lot of downtowns, they get so busy, and you can't even find parking, or you know. So I was like, oh, just way faster to bike into work in downtown. So that's definitely a good option.
Any other excuses that you come up with?
Drivers that are just absolutely oblivious.
Yeah.
I biked a lot when I lived in Oregon, and they were much more bicycle aware, the drivers were. And I don't know how we get Arkansas, or, you know, this area to be more that way. That's, I mean, it's not solvable, I guess, but that's a big fear of mine.
I think in some ways you're helping solve it, and I think all of you are helping solve it by being here today. You're going to be more aware as a driver.
Yeah.
And I think our ask of you would be to challenge yourself to commute, but in a defensive way. Now, we're trying to help provide the tools so that you can be more aware of pinch points that might be less safe. But why not talk to your friends about it? Hey, did you know that technically you're supposed to give me 3 feet as a cyclist? And as your friends know that you ride to work, that you ride to the grocery store, that you ride to the farmer's market, they're going to look at those cyclists differently. And the more of us that are out there, the more people so many cyclists, campus has so many cyclists, I need to be ultra aware. I think that's my dream for the world,
Yeah.
that we start acknowledging that we are taking up space in the world and we all just need to learn how to share it.
Another thing to kind of add to that is that there's always power in numbers, and something that I like to do with my friends or my partner is sometimes when I'm testing out a new route, I just tell them, I'm like, do you just want to go for a ride? But secretly I'm testing a new route. But it's also a way for me to kind of like also gauge them and also teach them, and they get to see like, oh, okay, this is how you ride and so on. So even in your learning experience, in your learning journey, you can invite your friends and family to say like, hey, let's go on this ride. Let's see what it's like to go from the Fayetteville Library over to Ozark Natural Foods. Like, come with me. Let's see what the ride's all about, right? And that's always powerful because it helps visibility and then just kind of promotes that education of, because then maybe you're empowering them to then also commute and ride their bike on their own at some time in their life, right? Okay.
If you want to take it a step further, you can also be involved in your city's active transportation committee or council.
It's true.
Advocate for this stuff. Just being out there and saying, we want more of this stuff, we love what you're doing, these are the problem areas, is so important. So important.
Certainly.
Fayetteville Strong is a local advocacy group that you could get in touch with. They're trying to make your Fayetteville neighborhoods more walkable, more bikeable. So again, power in numbers. If you can help support them, they'll support you.
Awesome. Well, we have 2 minutes left in class. I'll just say a couple last things is we do have a newsletter. I believe in there we also include when we have our next classes. Not 100% sure, but you sometimes. But if not, whenever you sign up in Eventbrite, you can hit the following, and then you'll always get an email whenever we have a class. So if you're interested on that intro to bike maintenance, that is happening in Pea Ridge on December 3rd, also 6 to 8 p.m. That's free. So if you are not doing anything that Wednesday night, drop in. I see some of you guys filling out your surveys. Don't forget to fill out your survey and then put that in the basket. And then lastly, if you guys don't have bicycle lights and need bicycle lights for your commute, we do have some bicycle lights available. And that's pretty much it. I mean, thank you everybody for coming today, and we appreciate you being here and learning, and that is all. So thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. And feel free to hang out. We're going to be putting up things and that sort of thing.